Here we go. There it is. So I was scrolling TikTok recently until I found this TikTok video.
I need someone to explain. How can girls hop in the shower and kiss each other and not be labeled as gay?
As you can see, it makes the claim that Cyan from Murderous will win against Death from Puss in Boots' The Last Wish. Now, to come clean, I did leave a comment saying that Death walked through existence erasure, but I later deleted it for two reasons. One, the person, or I guess an alt account of theirs, told me to scale that. And with TikTok limiting how many letters you can put in a comment, I knew I couldn't get my point across effectively with so little words. And second, my comment was basically saying what I had already heard without me doing my own research. So I spent an entire weekend doing research into both characters, by first watching both Murder Drones and the Shrek franchise, and then taking a closer look into both characters' feats and abilities to see who would truly win in a fight. Now, whenever it comes to these versus discussions with Death, many people will simply just use the excuse that he is Death, just straight up, he's Death, and that he can't be beat for that fact alone. But when you really think about it, this logic doesn't really make much sense when you realize that there are many, many different versions of Death throughout fiction. And I dare you to look me in the eyes and say that all these versions of Death, between all these medias, would all be the same in terms of power for just being Death. I mean, for God's sakes, in Billy and Mandy, Grimm gets defeated by a giant scorpion, and in Family Guy, Death dies in a car crash.
Damn it!
Dude, bad news. You're dead.
This means that each universe has their own established rules for what Death can and can't do. And this means that I'll have to take a closer look at Death in The Last Wish and judge him based on the standards given to us by the film. With that being said, let's jump into the first category, Strength. First, let's start with Cyan. Cyan's strength can best be compared to other Murder Drones due to the fact that she had fought them directly. So for this, I'll be using two feats done by the N to judge Cyan's strength. The first feat of strength will be when N threw Uzi straight into the air.
Up we go!
Now, Uzi had kept gaining in height until she eventually stopped slightly above the clouds. And in order to go above all the clouds, you would need to be at least 9 miles up in the air. Now, when timing the scene out, it took around 18 seconds for Uzi to reach that height. And after putting some numbers into a calculator, because I can't be bothered to do it myself, we can find that Uzi was launched with a speed of around 1,800 miles per hour, or 2,897 kilometers per hour. And after plugging that into another calculator, we find that this would require a force of around 0.0047 tons of TNT. Huh. Turns out a water demon is more powerful than a murder drone. Go figure. The second feat we'll look at is when N had stopped the hydraulic door from closing. Now, unfortunately, figuring out how strong this specific door is may not be possible, mainly due to the fact that the hydraulic doors that we use are nothing like this one. And I can't just substitute in a hydraulic press since those are way stronger because they focus all their power into a smaller point, similar to what a high caliber bullet does. So instead, I'll just figure out how heavy the door is and use that to get N's strength in that moment. If we look at the door in this scene, we can see that its thickness is probably around 1 feet. And as for how big the door is, I'll just use this screenshot of Uzi in front of the door and use her canonical height of 139 centimeters, according to a lead tech artist, to figure out how big it is. So by using this method, I figured out that the door's height is 680 centimeters, or 268 inches, and its length is 1,020 centimeters, or 402 inches. When plugging these numbers into a calculator, the door's weight comes out to around 364,506 pounds, which I then converted into tons. This would put N's upper strength at around 165 tons, and by proxy, would put Cyan's strength to around that much as well. Now it's time for us to figure out how strong Death is. For his first feat, I'll be using this scene where he casually pushes over a giant crystal in the Cave of the Lost. Since the crystals are clear, it would be safe to assume that they are made out of quartz. So I had to figure out just how big one of these crystals would be on average. So I decided to use this screenshot from the movie and decided to use Puss's height and compare it to the crystal to his left. Unfortunately, Puss doesn't have a canonical height, and though the website Fiction Horizon says he's 3 feet tall, they didn't give any math for how they found that out. So instead, I just took the fact that Puss is a tabby cat and just simply used their length to substitute in for his height, and according to cats.com, a tabby would be at most 17 inches long. So, for the sake of argument, let's just say Puss is around 17 inches tall. This would mean that the crystal has a height of around 77 inches, a length of around 60 inches, and a width of around, let's just say 17 inches. How's that? Now, these measurements were made with the assumptions that the crystal is a rectangular prism, so take the following math with some salt. So after plugging these into a calculator, this would give us a weight of 2,407,522 carats, which I converted to pounds and then converted to tons, and that gave us to around 0.48 tons. The next feat we'll calculate is, of course, when Death destroyed these crystals in the end. And this is where I'm gonna have to come a little clean in the end. There is no official way to actually measure how much force is needed to destroy something, so what I'm about to say is just my best guess based on what I could find on the internet. So if you have a problem with the math, don't worry, there's probably about 15 other ways I could have done this, and each one would have given me a different result. This is just the method I used because it was the simplest to me. First, I needed to find the tensile strength of the quartz, and I found this on materialproperties.org, which was 48 megaparsecs, which is the equivalent of 48 million newtons per square meter. Then I had to find the area of the crystal, which would be approximately 8.9 meters squared. Then I multiplied these two numbers together, and this gave me the results of around 430,368,000 newtons, which I then converted into tons of TNT, which came out to be approximately 0.1 tons of TNT. So overall, in the strength category, this means that Death has the higher striking power, but overall, Cyan would be the stronger of the two of them. Next is durability. I guess we're doing speed now. Okay. With Cyan speed, I'm going to once again compare it directly to the murder drones, and for this, I'll be using the moment when V caught a bullet. Now, according to survivalstoic.com, a bullet's speed can be somewhere between 600 to 2,000 miles per hour, or 966 to 3,219 kilometers per hour. Now, since a bullet's speed can change based on its caliber and the gun barrel's length, both of which we can't actually be certain of in this one scene, I'm just going to lowball and put V's speed at around 600 miles per hour, which by proxy would put Cyan at around the same speed as well. With Death, we can directly compare his speed to other characters in the Shrek universe. And in Shrek 2, we see that Shrek is able to dodge arrows fired from a crossbow at point-blank range. The highest speed for a crossbow I could find in real life would be the 10-point TRX crossbow, with a speed of 515 feet per second, which would be around 351 miles per hour. So when it comes to overall speed, Cyan would be almost twice as fast as Death, and that was with a lowball estimate, as she could potentially be 5 times faster than Death at her theoretical best. Now, some may say that the entire speed category might be pointless since both of them have the ability to teleport, and this would most likely negate the entire category. And though it is true that both can teleport, as we can clearly see Cyan teleporting during the final battle in Amberdoodles, and with Death we can see him appear behind Puss in Boots despite the fact that Puss is still looking directly at him. However, just because both can teleport doesn't mean the entire speed factor is worthless in this fight. For instance, if both throw a punch at each other at the exact same time, Cyan will always land her punch first, since she is the faster of the two. And not to mention, teleportation would only affect their movement, not necessarily their overall attack speeds. And either way it wouldn't matter since Cyan would still have the faster reaction time between the two. Though Cyan's teleportation isn't perfect, as there is an obvious tell before she uses it, and it was thanks to this tell that allowed Uzi to win the fight against Cyan. And with how experienced Death is, he could certainly take advantage of that too and land a blow against Cyan. Though that might be easier said than done since he is slower, making actually hitting Cyan a challenge. Okay, are we able to talk about durability finally? Okay, good. Starting with Cyan's durability, we'll once again compare it to other murder drones. However, it's here we run into a problem. That being the fact that the durability for the murder drones is very inconsistent. Sometimes they can start explosions up to a continental scale, and other times, something as simple as a kitchen knife or a pen can harm them. Because of this, I'm going to make a judgment call and go for the more shown feats for their durability. That being, every single time we've ever seen them get damaged by another murder drone. This would put a murder drone's durability, and by extension Cyan's durability, around 0.0047 tons of TNT, the calculated striking force for a murder drone that we had found earlier. Fortunately for Cyan, she has a regeneration factor that can off-put this low durability, so long as her core remains intact. Now it's time for us to find the durability for Death, and for this, we'll be using this scene of when he walked through a barrier that was shown to be able to erase things out of existence, and Death was able to just walk through it like it was nothing, completely unharmed. But this does raise a question that I was originally asked myself when I made that comment, that being, how powerful is this barrier? How can I scale it? Or better yet, just how powerful is the Wishing Star in general? Because if we can figure out how strong the Wishing Star is, we'll be able to find Death's durability and see if Cyan has any way to actually kill Death. In Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, the star demonstrates its powers throughout the film. This includes being able to bend reality to shape the world around it, the ability to create life, the ability to see into a person's past, including any past lives, and most importantly, its ability to grant any one wish a person has. And it's here we can find the star's overall strength, with one wish in particular.
All of the magic in the world. For me, and no one else gets any.
While in the movie we never see this wish be granted, The narrative of the movie does tell us that the wish most likely wouldn't be out of the star's reach, as there doesn't seem to be any established restrictions to the star, unlike other wish-granted items in fiction like the Dragon Balls. So this means that the star would be able to strip the entire Earth of all of its magic. But how strong is the magic on Earth in the Shrek universe? For this, I went through the whole franchise to find the strongest magic-based power we've seen to judge the power of the Wishing Star. We've seen transmutation, transformation, the power to control minds, and the power to switch bodies up to street level. We've also seen the ability to create life, which was shown to be building level. We've also have seen the power to erase people out of existence and the power to rewrite history up to a planetary level with Rumpelstiltskin's magic. And there is also the power of the gods of Olympus. Wait, what? In The Last Wish, we see for a few brief seconds a trident. And while we could just assume it's Poseidon's trident, the film never says where it comes from. However, in the Last Wish DVD, there is a short called The Trident that tells one of the ways that Puss had died. And in that short, we get confirmation on the trident's owner.
So, when Pirates stole Poseidon's trident, I knew its magic could bring rain to the town.
This single line proves that the Olympic gods exist in the Shrek universe. Now, many might think that the Olympian gods are above the Wishing Stars since they are gods, but this wouldn't necessarily be the case, because there are times where their powers have been restrained or even removed, like when both Apollo and Poseidon had their powers stripped by Zeus, or when Ares was captured by some giants for a full year. And since the gods live on Mount Olympus, which would be on the Earth, the Wishing Star could have stripped them of their powers. So now the question becomes, how strong are the gods of Olympus? First, we're able to scale the gods to a continental level. This is because Poseidon is the god of earthquakes, and earthquakes are caused by tectonic plates moving, and many of the tectonic plates are as big as continents. But more impressive is the fact that Zeus, his brother, can just create constellations, like when he made the Orion constellation and the Scorpio constellation, which would put him, along with the other gods, on a constellational scale. But the most impressive feat of strength for the gods is when they fought the Titans during the Titomancy, and one of these Titans was Atlas, who had the strength to hold up the heavens, which in Greek myth would be the entire universe, minus Earth and the underworld. And since the gods fought the Titans, this would put the gods on a universal scale, which does make sense since they are told to be the rulers of the cosmos. With all that being said, this would put the Wishing Star on a universal scale, as that is how strong the star would need to be in order to strip the gods of all their magic, and by extension their powers. This means that the barrier created by the Wishing Star has a power output to a universal scale when it erases things out of existence. This means that Death was able to survive being erased out of existence on a universal scale. This would make the normal weapons and strength of a murder drone basically useless when it comes to trying to kill Death, as they don't even have a way to do any seriously lasting damage to him in the first place. But Cyan is not a normal murder drone, because she has access to something I've yet to talk about. The Absolute Solver is a powerful, vampire-like computer virus that allows Cyan, and other drones who get infected with it, to gain the power to warp reality. During the show's run, we've seen the many powers and abilities that the Absolute Solver has. These include teleportation, transformation, transmutation, duplication, regeneration, illusions, telekinesis, the ability to make items stronger, and also grants anyone who has the Absolute Solver immunity to reality warping effects. It also has the power to create something that I personally dub as a null sphere. Though they may look like black holes, they are nothing like black holes. A black hole is created when matter is compacted so densely, it creates a powerful gravitational pull that not even light can escape from. And as we can see in the show, these null spheres have no pull force to them at all, because if they did, they wouldn't need these weird light tendril things to pull things into themselves. Slight correction. The null spheres do have some pull to them, but it's nowhere near as powerful as a black hole's would be, since a black hole as big as a coin will have a gravitational pull equal to the Earth's. But what exactly are these null spheres? Well, the word null means zero, and zero represents nothing, meaning these null spheres are spheres of nothingness. And as we can see, when these null spheres touch anything, that thing is just erased out of existence. My best comparison for this ability is to use the stand Cream from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. These null spheres are so powerful they can be used to destroy entire planets, like Earth, which would put the Absolute Solver and its powers on a planetary scale. But that's not where it ends. In the narrative of the show, it's believed that the Absolute Solver is a threat to the whole universe.
I'll need you to choose the universe over one little drone and...
Which would put its power up to universal. So, could Cyan use the Absolute Solver to defeat Death? Well, no. Death was able to shrug off being erased out of existence on a universal scale. And since the highest attack Cyan has is universal with the Null Spheres, this means that Cyan has no real way to actually kill Death. So does this mean Death just wins? Well, when it comes to Cyan's defeat, we see her core be turned into absolute nothingness, and she was still able to persist. That was until Uzi swallowed her core and killed her. Except she didn't die, because in the final few seconds of the show, we see in a post-credits scene that Cyan is still alive!
You look great. Have you considered a bow, though?
So, what does this mean? Well, it means that we don't know if Death can actually kill Cyan or not, since there doesn't seem to be an actual way to do so. So if Cyan can't kill Death, and Death can't kill Cyan, then that means it's a stalemate. A stalemate? Oh, y'all, damn it! No. You know what? Screw it. I went into this on the belief that one of them would lose, and the other one would win. But if it's just gonna end in a stalemate, then I'm gonna force both of them to lose by having them face off against opponents that they don't even stand a chance against. First we'll start with Cyan, and I'm gonna choose Kamen Rider Zio. Thanks to the fact that he doesn't have all of the Heisei Air Rider's powers, this would make him stronger, faster, and far more durable than Cyan. Zio also can scale to multi-universal thanks to the fact he can just dream up entire Rider worlds into existence. Along with that, Zio also has the power to control time and can also just negate regeneration and immortality, meaning that no matter what, any damage he deals to Cyan will be permanent. Zio is also immune to matter manipulation and plot manipulation, making the Absolute Solver absolutely useless against him. Yeah, no, Cyan is cooked. As for Death, I choose Asura from Asura's Wrath. Asura is a wrath-fueled demigod that gets stronger the angrier he gets. Asura does this thanks to Mantra, which allows him to harness the emotions of wrath to empower himself to unbelievable levels of power. This makes Asura vastly more powerful than Death in strength, speed, and durability. And, not to mention, Asura can also just use this mantra to heal himself. Asura became so powerful, he was even able to destroy the very will of Gaia, which would put Asura above the Olympic gods and would make him an equal to the primordial gods like Kronos or Tartarus or even Chaos, the creator of the entire universe and of all concepts. In fact, Chaos is very similar to Chakravartin, who, in Asura's Wrath, also created the entire universe as well as all of its concepts. And Asura eventually gained enough power to kill Chakravartin, which would put him over Universal and over Concepts, meaning that Asura could easily kill Death. Also, Death couldn't even kill Asura at all in the slightest, because yes, while Asura did die at the end of the game, that only happened after the very concept of Mantra was erased out of existence by Asura himself. And Death has no feat that shows that he could kill Concepts, meaning this fight would literally just be Asura punching the ever-loving non-life out of Death for a solid quick time event. So there you have it. In a battle between Cyan and Death, the winner would be both Zio and Asura. I'll probably revisit this matchup in the future if there is ever a season 2 of Murder Drones, or if DreamWorks decides to make any type of spin-off around Death. It could be a comic book for all I care. But as of now, with all the information we have, this fight would be a tie between the two of them. But before I leave you, let us just remember that this was all just for fun, and is not to be taken too seriously. Until next time, I was the Finish Guard, and I will see you all next time, which will hopefully be that Persona video I've been working on.